I'm Laura Vinroot Poole, and this is What We Wore. Tommy Ton is one of fashion's first street style photographers. Tommy jumped into the industry at a pivotal time, in the first moments where bloggers and fashion collided. He's a pioneer of the integration of fashion and digital media, and he was born to tell this story. I'm the one person that can claim that I brought Tommy Ton to a NASCAR race.
That's true. You're the only person that's ever brought me to an event, any like that of that magnitude, and I always cherish that memory.
Well, I cherish that you agreed to come.
Of course, I mean that was way back then. I would still go now, but I can't remember so much, but I obviously remember the race and Bojangles and this store. So whenever anyone asks me if I've ever been to Charlotte, I go, yeah, of course. I went to NASCAR thanks to Laura.
Well, and also you can't remember the first time we met, I think, was with Joseph Altazara.
Yes, so
Yeah.
that was we met. We hadn't even met before that. You inquired about me coming down to Charlotte when Joseph was still in his infant stages of his design career. So I'd come
As were you.
yes.
Right.
It was actually just before the whole Saddle.com thing happened. So
Okay, so not yeah. So you were pretty far along. So Tommy, you're Canadian. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Oakville, Ontario, which is just the suburbs outside of Toronto,
Okay.
about 20-minute drive. So I lived there up until the age of 35.
Wow. Okay. And
Yeah,
then
so
you're in New York now?
I'm in New York now. So I made the move in 2017. Oh, sorry,
Okay.
2019.
And what do you miss about Canada?
The people, I mean,
Yeah.
I miss how incredibly polite we are, or I don't know, I don't want to say we were. I mean, we still are. Like we still uphold to a certain way of our manners and our etiquette, but I feel like in this day and age, times have changed a bit. And
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in Toronto for quite some time, so I'm not sure how things are. But I'm pretty sure when I go back there, people don't say when you say thank you.
And so you grew up outside of Toronto in a small town. Was it like how many people?
I think the population was about 500,000,
Oh,
so
okay.
it wasn't like a small rural town, but it was like a
Yeah.
suburb, so it was a very quiet,
And what
uh,
was your childhood like there?
quite normal. I mean, no, when I really do relish the childhood that I had because obviously I have nephews and nieces now, and I look at how they were being raised, and I spent a lot of time outdoors with friends and especially with my parents. So a lot of my weekends were spent going up north, and we would go fishing or camping. So I had a lot of time to let my imagination run wild. So
Yeah. And did you have anybody in your family that worked in a creative field?
I didn't. I had my older brother and older sister. They were very much into what was popular in culture at the time. So whether my brother was very fixated on U2 or Depeche Mode, and then my sister was very much into Madonna and house and voguing scene of the '90s. I had two older siblings to look up to, but my sister had plastered her walls with like lots of clippings of from magazines. So whether it was Claudia Schiffer in the Guess ads, or just I have this. I think my first memory of fashion was this cutout of Linda Evangelista from the Chanel runway, and she had like this seafoam shellacked wig. And I don't know, I can't remember why I was so drawn to it at the time, but I just probably thought this is just so wacky.
And
So I
where
remember
did you see it, Tommy? It was in a
on the back of my sister's door. So she had cut out all these runway images and just created a collage on the back of her bedroom door. But she also plastered her walls with Guess ads
huh,
of Claudia Schiffer
yeah.
and Anna Nicole Smith.
And so you started to become interested in fashion as she did?
No, so I when I was, I guess, up until the age of 13, I was very much into my own little things as a little boy would. So I liked comic books and
Yeah.
um, just watching Saturday cartoons and all that and playing outside. And then one summer in 1997, when she was away, she asked me to record with VHS recorder this program called Fashion Television. I don't know if you had
Oh
it,
yeah. Yes.
Jeannie Becker. So
Totally.
she asked me to record it for her one weekend, and I begrudgingly said yes. So when I was sitting and recording it, it was this one episode that was focused on Tom Ford's famous heroin she collection. It was the collection with the interlocking G's on the G string.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember the moment that segment started and he started speaking, I just became so enraptured and seduced by his choice of words and how he's describing the collection. And I just was like, the whole time, because obviously I had never, I had seen provocative imagery thanks to Madonna and the Blonde Ambition tour years before, but just seeing how someone was able to create this type of um, visual imagery and put it out into the world, I was seduced by what he was putting out there. So
Wow.
that,
And so what did you do with that? Like at that weekend you saw that and then what did you do? Were you like, "Oh my God, I need to go
it,
look at
it was
magazines?"
like it was love at first sight. So
Yeah.
from there, I just knew I had to digest as much information as I could about fashion. So I would go to the library,
Huh.
I would rip out clippings. I would, I mean, I owed a lot of money to
To
the
a
public,
library.
but it was any way that I could take in fashion, whether it was through fashion programming and taping these specials or weekly episodes, and then going to the library. It was just, I became really fixated and obsessed. And
How old were you, Tommy?
I was 13 at the time.
Oh wow.
So this is obviously pre-social media. So
Yeah.
everything was so prehistoric. Like I had to find my own way of delving into the culture of fashion. So
Yeah, and so how at 13 and nobody in your family worked in fashion, I gather. So like how at 13 did you not forge a path, but like even see possibilities as to how you could combine or have this be a part of your life?
I mean, the initial dream was obviously to become a fashion designer. So as soon as I started becoming in love with fashion, I started sketching into like a sketchbook. And I mean, I was very much into art as well. So I was applying these artistic skills towards sketching women's clothes. I mean, I was obviously knocking off what I was seeing on the runway, but adding my own little twist to it. But that was just the seed that was planted into my head that I wanted to work in fashion, was to become a designer.
Yeah.
So obviously, as I was finishing middle school and then moving into high school, like as this obsession grew, I started understanding what I needed to do, which was eventually work for a designer as an intern.
Mhm.
And that didn't happen until what, 10, grade 10 or 11.
Yeah.
But I was very strategic about how I wanted to forge this career in fashion. So um, even though I couldn't go to downtown Toronto and visit department stores, I realized, oh, I should work at a local store if I could. So it was a menswear store, and I was vacuuming and folding clothes and doing all the medial labor.
But I mean, and also it's smart though, because I always say like no job is bad in fashion because you learn all 360, like all the things that need to happen to make it happen. Because I think a lot of young people want to start and go straight to buying or what, you're like, you probably just need to steam first.
Yeah, exactly. Or push the rocks down the garment district, or
Yeah.
so what I did with my internship was, it was just a very simple design internship, but at least I learned the basics of production. I was hand stoning rhinestones on evening gowns.
Wow.
So I was working for evening wear designer in Toronto.
And how did that come about? I mean, and were your parents supportive?
They weren't, but I mean, there was a program at school. There was an internship program where you get to choose where a work placement, and so I wanted to work for a designer. So obviously the school wasn't responsible for that, it was me. So I had been reading a lot of local Canadian magazines and realized, oh, there's a community of fashion designers in Toronto. So I just saw this one designer named Wayne Clark, and he was considered the king of glamour of Canada.
Huh.
So I thought, oh, this could be an interesting way to start. So I just started.
But how did you get there?
I wrote a letter. I didn't hear from them for maybe 3 days. And as an impatient teenager, I got on the train. I went down to the studio. I went down to the studio and I walked right in and I said, hi, I sent a letter in. And I think,
one second, when you say you wrote a letter, you actually like physically like wrote a letter and
yes,
put it in the mail, right? Because that's also something that
yeah.
maybe it
So
hadn't arrived yet in 3 days.
I don't even think I had an email address, because this was in
Yeah.
2000. one. Yeah, this was in the fall of 2001.
Yeah.
So I hand wrote a letter, and then I mailed it. And then, as
Showed
impatient,
up.
I showed up at their studio, and they're like, "Oh, hi, we just got your letter." And I was like, "Can I intern for you guys?" And they're like, "Sure, you'll start in February." And this was in
Oh
November,
my.
I think.
Oh my gosh, February in Canada. Okay.
Yeah, so I started in the middle of winter.
And
Uh,
like on weekends or what when did you
so
go?
because of this placement, instead of going to school for 4 days of the week, I would go to this internship, and then on the fifth day, you would go back to school
Wow.
and report back to the class of what you did for the week.
Wow. And so really your parents weren't supportive at all or I mean what was that conversation like?
I think they just shrugged their shoulders because, I mean, I think they knew that it was just for one semester, so it was just for
Yeah.
3 or 4 months. But then little do they know that this was going to fuel a passion,
It
and
lasted longer.
it lasted longer. So,
And was
and
your
then
sister still into fashion at this point?
she was, but the thing is, as I became more immersed into fashion, I realized, oh, her fixation with fashion was more of the glamour side of it, and just being a happy observer and not being like particular about this look from that collection
Right.
yeah.
Huh.
So I became really fixated in the way that a comic book nerd would, like
Yes, yeah.
just talk about every single detail or what designer is hot at the moment, et cetera, et cetera.
And what was it at that time other than the interlocking G's?
So, well, I mean, this at the time of the late '90s, this was the era of John Galliano, Christian Dior, Alexander McQueen,
Mm.
Tom Ford at Gucci, Miuccia Prada.
Golden
It,
times.
it was a golden era, and it was just. And the thing is, I wasn't very much into the avant-garde aspect of fashion. I was more drawn into, obviously, the more glamour side, which is Tom Ford and
Mhm.
John Galliano. But as you become more and more immersed into fashion, you start realizing, oh, there's so much more storytelling with certain designers. So at the time with Alexander McQueen or Hussein Chalayan, like these were designers that were being very conceptual
Yeah.
with their collections. So it was a very interesting time.
Well, and then when you got back, so you had that month or semester, and
Yeah.
then what happened when you got back to school? Were you bored out of your mind?
Well, no, because hired me for they hired me for the summer, and then I was very flattered, and then obviously accepted the position. And I still had another year of school, but I think at the same time they still allowed me to come down to work. I don't know how many days a week, but maybe like a few days, whether it was after school or because I had a little bit of taste of fashion, so I felt like I needed
Yeah.
to continue. So I think I
And you
was
were
still,
doing all the things. I mean, you were sweeping the floors and steaming clothes and like everything.
yeah, I was doing what is it that you do when you I'm already forgetting when you cut out swatches and you make
Oh yeah, swatch books.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
was making swatch books, or
Yes.
they taught me how to apply rhinestones to a bias cut velvet. No, not velvet. What is the word? What is the term when velvet is cut out? Smocked, flocked. Yeah,
Flocked. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So they would mark the flocked velvet on a bias cut gown, and I would have to like apply.
And did you enjoy the tediousness like those all those projects? Did you
Oh, yeah,
enjoy it?
absolutely. I mean, at
Yeah.
the time, I was like, this is not what I was hoping to be doing. But at the same time, I realized,
But aren't you glad you understand it now?
yeah, absolutely, because I know how to sew a button on, and people still question, how do
Yeah.
you sew on a button? Because I spent months doing it. So
Also, you probably had home ec like I did too.
I did.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't
Right.
exist anymore.
It doesn't. Oh, I didn't
No,
realize that.
no, it doesn't.
Oh.
That in shop class.
Which I did also take, by the way.
Yeah, me too. So worked there in the summer and then went back and graduated.
Graduated high school, and then I went back to work for the designer.
Yeah.
Then I started having these thoughts of, well, I think I kind of want to work in retail and the buying aspect of fashion.
Mhm.
So then I applied for another job while I was working for the designer.
Did you ever meet the clients that bought the clothes? And did you ever have that
No,
experience?
I did
No.
not have that
Yeah.
experience, which is also very crucial
Yeah. Yeah.
to a very impressionable teenager that thinks that they could become the next big designer.
Right. But I mean, I think it's smart that so your next job was in retail because you wanted to understand that part of it.
Yeah, so I applied for a seasonal job at Club Monaco. I got turned down,
Mhm.
but then I applied for a job at Holt Renfrew, which is the Canada's luxury department store.
Yeah.
And then I was initially offered a job selling evening wear, but I was thinking to myself, as an 18-year-old, I don't think I could handle this type of clientele.
As a 53-year-old, I can barely handle it.
Exactly. I mean, I guess I made a smart decision. I said, I would love this job, but I can't work in evening wear. And they said, well, why don't you work in accessories? And I said, perfect. So I started working in the sales department at Renfrew, selling accessories while also doing the other job, working on production and
Wow.
for the designer.
Did you connect to the retail part?
I loved interacting with consumers and having a better understanding of life of a product once you've it's been
Yeah.
shipped to a department store. So then once I started having that appreciation, I thought, okay, so I'm also going to start college and I'm studying fashion marketing. Maybe I want to become a buyer. So I thought there's also a program when you go to college where you intern at the
Yeah.
end of that school year. So that's when I thought I would love to intern in the buying office at Holt Renfrew.
Yeah.
So once I finished my first year in college, I realized I should intern at Holt Renfrew, which is what I did. And I was in the buying office for a few months. And then I realized this is too boring.
Tommy, did you have anybody mentoring you along the way? Anybody that gave you advice or
Yeah, I mean, a few of the buyers were very, very kind and showed me the way. Barbara Atkin, I'm sure you've met her before. Oh, no, you haven't. She was the fashion director
okay.
at Renfrew. So I had met her a few times and I guess she was very receptive to my energy because I was very excited
Yeah.
and you young in the office is really fun. But then when I was working at Holt Renfrew in the buying office and also on the sales floor at the same time, I realized maybe I'm more of a creative person.
Huh.
So this was in 2005 when I started realizing, oh, on the internet, more, there's more to just going to a website and, I mean, blogs were not even existent at the time, but I thought
Yeah.
of my own online publication. So
Huh.
this was just prior to blogging becoming something. So I launched my website at the time, which was Jack and Jill.
Yep.
You remember?
Uh-huh.
Um, I finished my retail journey and I started working on this online publication where I wanted to be able to feature product, but also go out and photograph people at parties and events in Toronto.
Okay.
So this was just at the very beginning stages of street style becoming a thing, but it was only seen in publications. It was never really like an online thing. And then style.com started featuring street style imagery from fashion shows. And that's when I started thinking, oh, maybe I want to capture this on the street in Toronto. Um, Long story short, I was offered a job with this e-commerce site called Vintage Couture.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so this woman, Linda Latner, she had hired me and said, oh, you're more than welcome to continue this publication you want to do, but you can also work with me and help me build my online business. So I had left my job at Holt Renfrew, but at the same time, I was working for for Linda and helping her develop her website.
And
So,
photographing the clothes on models.
yeah, I was photographing the clothes on mannequins and just
Okay.
helping her build an e-commerce business for her vintage business.
And had you ever picked up a camera before?
No. Oh no, I did. I did in high school. So just for one class in our class, we were just there was one point we were just experimenting with photography, but that was with film.
And you used a real camera. It wasn't your phone. It was always a camera.
No, there was no phone cameras at the time.
Yeah.
So this
Oh, right.
five. The only camera you'd have on a phone would be on your flip phone, and it would be a little
A little
pixel.
grainy. Yeah.
But even the photography I was taking with my camera, which I bought, was still grainy, but I was still excited to be documenting
Yeah.
um, what people were wearing because I think I didn't realize it way back when I became interested in fashion, but I was really interested in how people dress, but I just didn't understand how I was going to document it and showcase it to the world. So it
Exactly. It's not only how do you document it, but it's also how do you share it with people.
exactly, and
Yeah.
having a platform such as a website or even a blog that didn't happen until the mid 2000s. So when I started realizing I had this platform and I could capture people just and socialize and engage with people just going out on the street, I realized, oh, this is an opportunity for me to enter fashion in a way that, it's not so one-sided where I'm viewing it from my bedroom in my parents' house.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it was huge. I mean, it became massive, Jack and Jill.
It took several years. It took 4 years actually, because I had launched in 2005. But in 2007, which is when I first started going to the European shows, my boss at the time, she had seen how much I had an interest in taking pictures of people on the street. And she said, oh, if you want to go to Europe, I'd be happy to get you a ticket as a bonus. So that was the real kickstart.
How did you fund it? How did you monetize it, even from the beginning?
It was all a hobby. I mean, she just said, "Go ahead." She took care of my ticket, which was very nice. I saved
Wow.
my money. I
Yeah.
paid for my own accommodation. She had luckily connected me with someone in Paris who was able to get me a few tickets. I can't complain that in my first season I had a ticket to like Saint Laurent or Chanel, but it was just finding out where the shows were and actually just being outside and seeing um, a different type of fashion person, which I had
Yeah.
known existed. Obviously, seeing a movie like The Devil Wears Prada or the September issue, you have you kind of have an inside view of what fashion looks like. But when you're physically there at the shows, like because you've been going to the shows for so many years, you just see something different than other than what you're seeing in a magazine.
You really do, because it's editors,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And so when you got to Europe that first time, you went to Europe first before you went to New York to do this?
yeah. For my
Um,
first season, I only did London and Paris. That's it.
okay. And what I mean, I'm thinking back on it because I mean, I was going to him for the last 30 years. So I do remember the renaissance of this. But like I mean, there weren't many of you doing it,
Oh,
right?
there's like probably less than maybe 15.
Yeah.
Sometimes even just myself or one other photographer sometimes.
And did everybody connect and did you learn from them? I mean, was it a generous relationship with them?
It was fairly easy, like just asking innocently, "Oh, can I please take your photo?" So at the time, I didn't know who a Corinne Reutfeld or Emmanuel Alt was, or an Anna Della Russo. This is prior to the fashion insiders becoming street style stars. I was just totally just enthralled by the idea of just being around like-minded people that loved fashion
Yeah.
and just chasing them around the city and just going to different shows and seeing how they go about their lives in this very short period of time. I just thought it was really
Yeah.
but I knew from that first trip, I said to myself, I have to go every season from now on.
Yeah.
I just knew that I had to be part of this seasonal Olympic Super Bowl type of experience.
You know, one thing that strikes me too, and I think I know you will understand this, is just when you know seeing all of these different men and women and how they dress and how differently they dress from Charlotte or Toronto and how just like mind blowing it is. One of the big things that sticks out for me is something like the Vogue Paris team
Yes,
and just how incredible they looked. And you know, in thinking about that, incredible because they're the chicest, but also because they're riding the metro, you know, or they're because of practicalities. Whereas,
yes,
you know, or think about somebody like Anna Della Russo with the heels like out of control, but she's always in a car, you
yes.
know, and the practicalities mixed with like, you know, what you want to look like are so interesting to me.
It's very true because like when you go about your day-to-day life in whether it's Toronto or Charlotte,
Mm.
people aren't dressing with the idea of fashion in mind. They're dressing
Right.
a practical uniform or just this mindset of I have to go pick up my kids or I have to go to work.
Right.
So it's just to be, and it's so funny that you mentioned the Vogue Paris team because they were the first group of women who I had seen at the Balmain show come out, and I was just so just seduced by this very slim, skinny silhouette,
Yeah.
black, very sharp in high heels, and they were just all together, and it was almost like witnessing nature, and you're watching this very beautiful group of animals, just
Group of peacocks.
gazelles, like
Yeah,
peacock,
gazelles. Yeah.
basically walk in front of you without demanding any attention. And I just thought, oh, this is so interesting. But this was before I even started taking candid photos. I just thought the way of documenting this was asking someone, please, can I take your photo?
Right.
So after like the whole week and understanding the dynamic of how things worked, I just started
Yeah.
the very last day of Paris was just started taking photos of people as they walk by. And then I realized maybe this is the way I should go about it, but it's a bit too late because it's the end of
Right.
the.
Right.
So obviously, the next few seasons when I started finding a balance between taking a very uniform photo, which is asking someone, "Can I please take your photo?" and then also just taking those photos in between of someone getting out of their car or walking
Yeah.
to something. And then when I started uploading these images to my blog, I started realizing, oh, people are resonating more with these types of photos because it just tells more of an editorial story as opposed to just like a stop and repeat photo, right?
Yeah. Yeah. again, Jack and Jill just got bigger and bigger, but when did you first, were you first able to monetize it? When did you have, did designers ask you to photograph, for advertising campaigns at that point?
I was on assignment for local magazines in Canada and newspapers because they knew that I was the only photographer going to shows in Europe. So um, it wasn't a very prevalent thing seeing street style imagery in magazines or newspapers, but it was just a kind of a glimpse. So that's why I started getting commissioned, and I was making a little bit of money, but not that much money. So
Yeah.
my day job was funding these trips, but it wasn't until the fall of 2008, a year before we met, when I was reached out by Lane Crawford to shoot their spring summer 2009 campaign. And initially I thought, is someone pranking me? Because the last photographers that shot the campaign were Inez Vanu. I just, I just thought, why on earth would they ask me? And when I found out that it was a legitimate email, I couldn't believe that
Wow.
my type of photography was being considered um,
And,
editorial to shoot like an international campaign.
and so did they fly you to Hong Kong?
No, they flew me to Paris. So
Wow.
I had never been to the men's or Paris show. Sorry, the men's or couture shows. So I'd gone a month prior to shoot those shows, but also shoot this campaign um, on models in front of the shows.
Well, okay, and then let me ask you this. I mean, from having, not having studied it in school and having learned just from doing, were you nervous about like your photography equipment, or also more of the back end of that, like how you're sending them PDFs or whatever, whatever?
I mean, when I look back at it now, I think I wasn't. I think I was just really excited to be able to have a job, first of all, and and the fact that someone was contacting me to do a job on this level.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I didn't have any equipment. All I had was just my camera.
Yeah.
So when they approached me to do this shoot, it wasn't like I thought, oh, I need,
Well, well, that's
assistant.
what I'm worried about. Like, yeah, assistant, and also like lighting. I mean, do you get there and you're just like, we do it just the way I do it, and that's it?
That's how it was,
Yeah.
and it worked out perfectly. So at the time, it worked for that. But obviously, when I look back on it, I just thought, oh gosh, why didn't I just hire someone to help me? And it could, I mean, I haven't looked at those images, but I mean, I should revisit it. But it was just so interesting that
Love to see them.
someone who was just like standing outside the shows wanting to be part of this was being tapped to shoot a campaign. And the funny thing is, I did a special assignment on Inez Vanu when I was in high school, when I was doing that photography course. So to be the photographer that followed up on them on an international came was pretty shocking to me.
Yeah, this part of your career had been self-led, and that you photographed things that were interesting to you. And then in this first job, or paid job from Lane Crawford, you're working with a stylist. I mean, were some of the looks, were you kind of like, I would never photograph this, or or
No,
had you worked early on with the stylist to say like, here's actually what would be interesting to me?
well, what was smart about the campaign was that they wanted to mimic my imagery, and they wanted the models to look like editors. So
Got
like
it.
at the time, Kate Lanfear, who was the
Yeah.
I forgot where she was working at the time, but she still has a very signature look, which is her blonde bob, and
Yes.
she like stacks of Eddie Borgo bracelets and leather jacket. They styled the model to look like her,
Love.
and and then some of the other looks, whether the model was wearing Givenchy, they made them look like Emmanuel or
Amazing.
so. Like for someone that was really excited about fashion, to see how this was a glimpse of a different side of fashion, and I think that's why Declan Chan, who was the one that hired me, he felt like, oh, this is an interesting side of fashion to see it from this perspective, and it's not models wearing clothes; it's models looking like editors who are
Yeah,
the
that's so cool.
heroes of the
I love
strips.
that. I love that. And then will you share with me your role in the 2009 Dolce and Gabbana show and how that came about?
So this was actually a month after we met. So that happened because everything started coming into place where so digital media was never really embraced. Bloggers were never really embraced in fashion. And so prior to the Dolce thing, weeks before, I had just taken a job at style.com, which is a huge monumental part of my career. And
Yeah.
because of that, that's when there wasn't digital PR branches in fashion houses. There was just the only PR team. So I think whoever was working at Dolce Gabbana at the time, they realized, oh, there's this new side to media, which is digital. I think we should embrace them, which were the bloggers. So they just had this idea of, oh, let's basically put them in the front row and see how that disrupts the industry. And
Yes, it did.
at that time, the fashion landscape was always just, editors, stylists,
Yeah.
buyers, whoever worked in retail. It was just a very members only experience at a fashion show. So all of a sudden, to invite these outsiders and just basically place them in
It's genius.
the hierarchy of fashion and just place them in the front row, it really caused a lot of disruption.
People were furious.
And they were furious, and because
Yeah.
they had no idea who we were, and also the fact that we didn't bring our laptops. They placed these laptops on stands in front of us. So myself, Scott, Garance, and Brian Boy were kind of just in shock that we were used as props, basically.
Wow.
And well, the first, it was two shows. The first instance was D&G. So when we were all placed as a group of four there, it was quite an impact. But it wasn't until days later when Dolce wanted to do it again, but Scott and Garance pulled out. So it was just me and Brian, but we had no idea what we were walking to. And I had just been outside shooting frantically, and I was sweating, and I was trying to look for my seat. And as I look, I see my seat is right next to Hamish Bowles, and 1 seat away from Anna Wintour. And I just think, I'm sorry, what? So as I'm taking my seat, I kind of look in the corner of my eye. I can see everyone just looking at me with like fire in their eyes, thinking.
And did anybody speak to you, or?
So when I sat there, I realized, oh, they wanted me to tweet because they had it the laptop screen open to Twitter, and whatever I was typing on the laptop was being projected on the screens.
Oh my God.
So as I was typing, Hamish leaned over and he says, "Oh, what's Twitter?" And so I had to explain to Hamish, who was sitting next to me, what Twitter was, and I was like, "Oh, whatever I'm typing right now will be tweeted to a live audience on the internet, or also right now, right in front of us." So he saw what was happening, but I didn't talk to anyone. I hadn't met anyone, whether it was
Yeah.
Glenn Lee or Susie Menkes, but I was just sweating because I was in so much fear, and I had so much anxiety. I just couldn't believe that this was happening to me. And
Yeah.
that from that moment on, that's when I started becoming more invited to fashion shows, because it was that moment.
And I've asked this a couple times, but I'm really fascinated by, I mean, you didn't have an agent at this time, right?
No.
I mean, I'm just fascinated by you jumping into this stuff alone and not having anybody to ask, and no mentor in fashion, but also, I mean, I guess Brian Boy and Garance and Scott, you could ask things, but like,
Oh, none of us had any representation or
yeah,
anything like that. We just went into this blindly, not know, because the digital aspect of fashion was non-existent. Maybe of course there was style.com and this other site called First View, but there weren't digital publications, there weren't digital journalists, there weren't bloggers that were coming from the suburbs of Toronto, an international fashion show to make a mark by being sat in front row. It was just non-existent.
but who did you talk to? Like, I mean, who, I mean, did you have friends that you sort of confided in, or
I mean,
got support from? Because that seems really brave and really hard.
I just talked about it to my other colleagues that were also other photographers. We were all kind of going through the same thing, but when that moment happened, that's when this dynamic that I had with certain editors when I was photographing them, it was more than just oh, hi, sure, I'll take a photo. It's just like, oh, hi, Tommy. Like, what have you shot today? And this was when Anna Della Russo, after that Dolce moment, she came and sought me out and said, "Oh, you're Tommy," because obviously I can place a face to a name now. And she was like, "I realize you're you're MrStyle.com and Jack Jill."
Right.
So yeah, having that platform and responsibility was a huge thing, but also being acknowledged as a voice in the industry, that was another. So.
Huh. And then tell me about style.com. What was that like? And that must have been challenging to go from kind of working for yourself to working for a big corporation, or I guess it wasn't big then.
Well, it was the Fashion Bible.
Yeah.
And it was the website I would log into when I was in high school in the computer lab and printing out looks from the runway. So when this actually happened, because I remember I came to Charlotte in August, right?
Okay.
Joseph. So a few weeks after New York Fashion Week had started, and I got asked first to meet with New York Magazine and to become their street style photographer. And I thought, great, I finally have an official job shooting for the cut. And then days later, I get reached out by style.com and they asked me to come to their office. And I was just like, okay, what's this all about? And they said, well, we'd like to offer you our official street style job because Scott has moved on. And I just thought, oh, God, no, I just accepted another job. But then I said, it would be ridiculous if I didn't accept this job because
Dream job.
the dream job.
Yeah.
So obviously, I had to go back to New York Magazine and turn them down. They were angry, but I couldn't care less because I was maybe working for style.com. And it was just really exciting to be the eyes of so many people that would log onto this site, and everyone is looking at the collections, but also to see fashion in a more democratic and accessible way. So my approach was not just a person wearing a look from head to toe. I was zooming in on the shoes or a handbag or details. I was a fashion enthusiast basically taking photos. So I think that's why people resonated with the photos instantly, because it just felt like a fashion editor's perspective.
And did they always respect or trust your point of view, or did they try to kind of, did they want it to look like Scott's looked, or I mean, were they fine with you being you?
They were completely fine with me doing what I was doing because they'd seen my photos on my own blog, and that's what they wanted the photos to look like. Because initially it was always vertical images. It was never a horizontal image. So I guess my photos kind of changed the direction of street style photos where it wasn't so much, a posed photo that was vertical. It was a horizontal candid photo of someone walking or someone holding a bag.
And then how long were you there, Tommy?
I was there from 2009 until the end, which is 2015. So I realized this past summer that it's been 10 years since Stuff.com had folded, but it was a very important time in fashion.
And you were still in Toronto at that time?
Yeah, I was still kind of living in Toronto. I was traveling for probably 7 to 9 months of the year. So
wow,
I'd been doing a lot of work in New York or abroad. So I was coming home all the time, but I was always traveling. So
were you were able to do editorial jobs at the same time, or was it full? Yeah. And and that became like a thing.
All of a sudden I was doing campaigns or editorials for international editions for Vogue, or I was shooting, I can't remember. It's been quite a long time, but it just became such a hot thing in fashion was street style. It's the next thing everyone was discussing. So whether I was doing a shoot for Saks and focusing on footwear, or going to Dubai and photographing a famous influencer, it was just all across the board. So,
and at that point you get an agent, I hope.
I got an agent in 2011, and that made a huge difference.
Yeah, I bet that they could filter things before, and that you could tell them what you were comfortable with, or that's interesting. And then when style.com folded, what next?
I realized after style.com folded that I wanted to, well, this is also after I had sold Jack and Jill, because there was a Brazilian shoe company that wanted to buy the rights to the name. So I just thought, sure, why not?
Because you were kind of done with it, or not done with it, but it was not your focus anymore.
I was very busy. So when I sold it was 2014, and I realized, like all my energy is always focused on style.com, and also obviously it was a very lucrative offer. So but then I just decided maybe it's time to rebrand myself as myself and not the Jack and Jill photographer.
Was that scary?
No, not at all. I felt enough people knew who I was by my name. So that's why I decided to launch my own website under my own name and not continue having a blog under an alias.
And then you started to consult with brands. How did that come about?
When did that start? It started in 2017. So I had been doing street photography for 10 years at that point, and I realized, like working in fashion is not always brain surgery. If you have an idea and then you have a team that can help manifest your ideas, then of course you can be a creative director or designer. So I had made friends with a brand in New York called DeVoe, and I realized, they wanted to launch a women's line. So I thought this could be an opportunity for me to have this teenage dream that I had, which is become a fashion designer. So I kind of voluntarily offered myself and they happily accepted me. So then that's when I helped launch DeVoe into women's.
And
And
did you, I mean, was it a total fit in that, like, from day one, did you know what you wanted to do and what was missing and how it needed to be, how it needed to change or what it
yeah, I
needed?
mean, it definitely was a learning curve because initially I thought, oh, what a great idea would be to have a unisex collection and we create everything to be not just for men's sizing or women's sizing, but it's just one size fits all. And the idea sounds great, but realistically, when you meet with buyers, you get
Well,
you
I,
get the questions
yeah,
of
and I would say as a person who owns a men's store and a women's store, the other thing is that women shop 1,000 times more than men. So it is like it's not even apples and oranges. It's like
yeah.
like totally different animals.
So that idea was pursued initially, and then obviously having some experience with some buyers and realizing, oh, okay, there needs to be a separation between the two. You can't just
Yeah.
offer a one size fits all. And then obviously when we learned that lesson, we launched a proper women's collection, and then that's when things were great, and I was able to balance that career and also still doing photography at the same time. So that was about like 4 years of my life. So 2017 to 2021.
Uh-huh.
It was a fun time, but then I realized, at the end of it, it was really hard because obviously going through COVID was a very difficult time, but also just it's not easy managing a business or a brand in fashion,
No.
especially obviously being an American one too, like the demands are very difficult and obviously the realities are just even more difficult. That's another whole discussion when it comes to like talking about exclusivities with certain retailers or
Yeah.
certain style. Like actually, the greatest lesson I learned during the entire journey with DeVoe was women like to buy cardigans. Because I had a trunk show at Bergdorf Goodman and I talked to the sales staff and I was just curious. I said, oh, what's a really high selling item? And they said, we always sell cardigans. And I hated cardigans.
That's so funny.
But then I learned that the reality is women are very self-conscious about their bodies and
Arms.
their arms, right? Because a cardigan can be worn with an evening gown. A cardigan can be
Yeah.
worn for day dress. It can be worn to work. It can be worn at home with the kids. It's a very versatile item. But the thing is, you can't downplay certain items that will sell. And that's why, as a designer, you need to work with the merchandiser because they will tell you what will sell.
Yeah.
So, as much as you like a bonded, heavy twill, it's not going to perform well if you're selling
Yeah.
to a store in the South where a woman can't buy that and wear that all the time because she'll be sweating.
Well, it also strikes me as, I mean, your whole career has been, there's so much freedom, it seems like. I mean, it's different every day. It's outside a lot of it, and then, and to work in an office and have to, and also just the business of selling a collection, you live with it for kind of a long time, developing it, then selling it, then producing it, then, I mean, all of the stuff. And it's a pretty long period and I'm sure you get sick of it.
I had it was so difficult because I felt I was haunted every night trying to think of certain bodies and styles that would not only obviously be new and creative, but also will it sell?
Yeah.
So obviously the fun stage, which is designing a collection and being it being paraded on a runway is great, but at the same time
Mhm.
you have to meet with the buyers and obviously hear about the statistics of what sold or not.
Yeah, meeting with the buyers, I'm sure, is like the least fun part, actually. I know because I am one.
No, actually, I really enjoy it. I've actually become really good friends with a lot of buyers that would come and visit and see the collection. But I actually do, if I ever did go down that road again, I think it's so important to be for designers to be present with buyers and
Yeah.
just listen to what.
Well, yes, but I will say too, it's really hard for us because when the designer's there, designers typically, maybe sometimes, don't really take feedback super well. And so it's really hard to be honest and say, we didn't sell this because it was ugly, whatever. It didn't fit. It made you look fat. Like like any of the things. And so you'd almost, it's kind of difficult truly to be with a designer.
It
Um,
can be, but I think if they can get over their ego and
yeah,
realize that
it's rare.
it's not as harmful as being on Project Runway. But it is the reality check that you really need if you're going to sustain a business,
Yeah.
especially this day and age. You really need to listen to the consumer, and obviously, you guys are the ones that are curating the wardrobes of all these consumers.
Yeah.
There's no better experience than being in the same room as a consumer and understanding what a woman needs in her wardrobe.
Totally agree. And that's sort of the magic of it too. We were talking about it in the store today. I mean, that's just the real fun of it is to, you know, dress a person head to toe and have them walk out happy and excited and like a different person. It's thrilling.
Yeah.
So after that, you went back to sort of more working with brands and doing their editorial.
Yeah. So since I left DeVoe, while I was at DeVoe, I was still trying to work on my book project, and I've still been working on that. I realized, I had some unfinished business. So I've been still working on this book project and collecting, well, adding more images to the archive. So I am still working as a photographer, but at the same time, I'm still trying to finally put together this huge project, which I'm still to this day waiting to put out into the world. But
Yeah.
it's
You,
it's I'll tell you what it is. I'll give you a bit of a teaser. It's a chronicle of influence where it's an overview of how fashion and digital intersected in this age, which is the last 15 years, and how that really turned the industry upside down and changed the landscape.
I mean, I watched it. I mean, you were it. It's
Well,
so
we were
amazing.
both part of it. We
Yeah.
missed it.
It
So
was so fascinating to watch, really was.
yeah.
I read an article from years ago that when you were asked what your ultimate goal was for yourself, and you said I think the ultimate goal for me is to continue. And I just love that sentiment. I mean, I think when people say like, wow, you've been in business, you're still doing it in 30 years. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm successful. I'm just still here.
Um,
You know?
I mean, would I change that answer today? Yes. But we're so lucky to work in this industry where, we love what we do, and we also get to meet other people that
Yeah.
are, just like-minded and also share the same passions. Yeah, all my best friends and my best relationships are with people that are in the industry. Um, and even when I'm standing outside the shows and it's extremely hot, my feet hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just lucky that this is what I wake up and I get to do. But I I feel like I can only do that for so much longer because I am much older than I was when I started. But I feel like what I've been working towards is, and I know that this is probably what I've been born to do, was to tell this story, which is what I've been working on.
Yeah.
So I feel like
I love that.
once I've put it out, I feel like it can step back and not be present at every fashion show.
Well, I feel the same way. I mean, I feel it really fashion will wear you down and it will exhaust you and it will test your last nerve, but I do not want to do anything else. I do not. I love it.
It is
And I
such a
hate it.
Yeah, and it's such a love-hate relationship. Of course, that we can't pry ourselves away from it.
Yeah.
But I find that my relationship with fashion is very different from what it was, 20 years ago when I first became interested in fashion. I don't think I love fashion. I love clothes.
Yeah. God, Tommy, your photos from the new Celine collection are the prettiest photos I have seen in so long.
Oh, thank you
They
so much.
really got me excited about fashion again. And it was interesting because we buy the collection, obviously, and we had written our order. And once I saw your photos, we added several things because your photos they were so clear and beautiful and crisp. I mean, I've never seen prettier photos.
Tell Michael Ryder that.
Yeah, yeah. We'll send him the podcast.
Well, the funny thing is, so I'm friends with Michael, and I told him, I said, like, what's so exciting about what he's done is it's kind of he understands like fans of fashion, but that want to get dressed up again and be excited about dressing and mixing colors and proportions in a certain way. And I think he's also like a consumer as well. And he understands like what drives desire. And he's worked on very crucial collections with past designers. And I think he understands that essence of wanting to excite people and want to pop the collar a certain way or stack bracelets in a different way. So I think I mean, we're entering a very exciting time in fashion, but I just think he's someone that has been secretly behind the scenes and
Yeah,
now it's time. And
it's exciting.
and going back to your response to the images, I think it's very important how fashion, whether it's, a big photographer or someone that's on the street, how you capture something, whether it's from an awkward angle, like that's how you get someone in, like that's how you feel challenged to want to dress up in a certain way,
I think because it feels human or something, like it feels tactile almost, like you can feel it.
because like in a sea of images that you're bombarded by every day, there has to be that connection and that soul, right? So it was pouring rain at that time, and the house wanted me to shoot the finale, and I just thought, oh, this is going to be so awkward. I'm just going to try my best. And they didn't use images, which is fine. That's not why I was hired, but I just thought it'd be a waste if these images were never seen. So that's why I posted them.
God, they're amazing.
And that's why it's kind of like, standard one-way imagery doesn't always capture a collection in the right way. Like I love seeing people's videos and photos from their seat from the show or even the showroom.
Yeah.
Sometimes people need to realize you just can't capture an image in a two-dimensional way. There has to be some kind of movement and kind of like tactile,
Yeah.
you know,
Grip.
grip.
What's been your biggest personal or professional struggle in the last 20 years?
I guess if I have to be honest, it's feeling content with myself and the respect that I already have. I don't know. I feel like I have to prove something to myself, which is what I'm trying to do with this project. But I feel like because I've worked so hard towards something, I feel like this is what I'm going to pour all my energy in towards and just making sure that it gets out to the world. But
Yeah.
I'm such actually, no. Maybe it's me being a perfectionist,
Mm.
and which is why it's taken so long for me to put out this project. But then I've realized I just need to let go and just let it be how it should be and not overthink it. So.
Yeah. Well, my next question was going to be, does being a photographer ever feel lonely?
No, I think in my field of being a street style photographer, it's how I meet people, and
Yeah.
um, whether it's someone just randomly stopping me on the street or someone I've known for so long and observed them from a distance and just telling me, oh, I've been such a huge fan,
Mm.
and I'm just like, what? But yeah, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better life, being able to work with designers that I look up to, whether it's Dries or
Yeah.
Scare, um, and then obviously meeting the people that work in the industry. So
Yeah, it's a pretty dream career when you look
it
back
is.
at it.
The thing is, if it was over tomorrow, I'd be fine with it because I've had a lot of great moments and met a lot of great people, but I feel like what's led up till now has just only been half of what's going to happen next. So
I agree. And I also think it's really, truly extraordinary. Um, I mean, you really created this thing. Like this was not a path that that was already there. Like you completely made this up.
I mean, I wouldn't say I made it up. I mean, I
You kind of
partook.
did.
I helped popularize something that was already existent, but it was all about timing and being a part of the industry when it was going through a significant amount of change. And
Yeah.
and I was just very lucky that I was a part of a small group of people that took their hobby and interest and ran away with it and realized there was an opportunity there rather than sitting back and letting other people come in.
Well, I think back to the Celine photos. I mean, I think for me that was really interesting to look at and to see how much you've developed and how incredibly talented you are. I don't know, and that I could see your hand in it. They were definitely your images, and I don't know. It's really exciting for me to have seen you do this for 20 years and who you were and who you are and still
Thank you
are.
so much. Oh, thank you, Laura.
One last question that we always ask, and I can't remember, we've had a lot of Canadian people on, but I can't remember if y'all have proms. Did you go to what did you wear to the prom?
I didn't go to I think it's called formal for us. So
Okay.
I didn't go to mine because I was obsessed with fashion and I was like, oh, I don't care about the high school experience. I was like, I'm more than happy to sewing on buttons and sequins at my internship. So I think I just skipped all that and what did I do? I think I was working at my internship at the time. So I just
Well, do you have a favorite, I don't know, a favorite piece of clothing?
I mean, I do remember the first few items I bought when I first started making money with my retail jobs, which was like a Prada leather bucket hat um, or a helmet laying pair of trousers with as zipper as the tuxedo stripe. It was just being able to feel like I can
Be a
obtain
part of it.
and be a part of it, and I worked hard for that. Whereas
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of kids today, a lot of it's
Yeah.
just given to them from their parents.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I had to buy a lot of my own fashion, or I still do
Yeah.
today. But at the time, I had to work very hard with my part-time jobs.
Yeah.
So I still have all those items.
I
So
was gonna say, I hope you still have them. My daughter had a really kind of rigorous job this summer, and she told me something so interesting. I said, "What was the best part of working this summer?" And she said the best part was going to bed really tired and deserving to be tired. And I love that, I mean, it's true. And being able to buy things that you worked really hard for, I mean, it's a totally different feeling.
I'm gonna steal that from her. I deserve to be tired, which is what I'll tell myself every day after Fashion Week.
Exactly. Oh my God. I was just looking at my calendar today. I was just like, wow. So I won't be home in a month and a half for a month and a half.
I don't know how you guys do it. A buyer has the most intense schedule, just the amount of appointments you guys have to visit and the amount of time you spend in the showroom, and then you have to go on to the next one.
Yeah.
And you do it just also after Fashion Week is finished.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think it's like, it's sort of a bargain you make with yourself. It's like if you want to be this caliber of store, if you want to carry these collection, that's how it has to go. I mean, you can be a different kind of store and not travel that much, but I'm not ready to be a different kind of store.
How do
Yeah.
you feel about the dynamic between retail and fashion shows? Because there was a time, obviously, you've been in the industry for so long, where buyers were a huge integral part of a fashion show, and now you're even lucky if you get one ticket,
Yeah.
and you're
Um,
clearly not.
Well, so I look at it, not always. It was really different, and it was a really big part of our schedule. And now, kind of back to that, I'm gone for a month and a half. Like, if it works out that I could go to a show, it's like if basically like going to a movie after work,
Yeah.
and if it is timed that way, yes. But otherwise, it's 2 hours out of my day from doing orders and really doing the work of the store. It's distracting. I love it if I can do it as a, cherry on top, like an ice cream at the end of the night kind of thing. But other than that, for me, it's funny. Like even when I'm invited, I'm like, do I have to do that? And so I mean, I've got several. I'm going to, New York, and it's more like it's somebody's anniversary event. And so you want to do it to support people, but it really is not part of my job anymore. Thankfully, truly. I mean, I love it. I enjoy it, but it's, the show's 6 minutes or something. So it's 2 hours for 6 minutes. And that's a lot of time out of my day and my real work.
Okay.
So yeah, and I mean, I miss it. I miss, and seeing you was always like, it was kind of like home base for me. It was like the one, normal, friendly person that would be like, "Hey, how are you?" Whereas the rest of it's really intense,
It is a very intense experience. It feels like
Yeah.
going to like a movie premiere or a rock concert.
Yes. And
And
you're like armored up and, like dressed and all the things. It's not super relaxing.
yeah. Even for me, who's at the show, I'd rather stand outside than go inside.
Totally. Oh my God. And then don't even talk to me about getting out of a show where you're leaving the show and everybody's on their phone. So they're not walking fast. And you're like,
Yeah.
please stop. Please put your phones down and let's
You
just
need
go.
to find your way out to get to your next appointment. And the thing is, there's all these cars that are lined up,
Yeah.
all kids that are standing there with their phone. You have no idea who's taking a video or photo of you.
Yeah.
It's a very intimidating experience.
Exhausting and yeah, like kind of soul crushing a little bit. And yeah, um, market is really challenging. And so if I've got 10 appointments every day, so I'm meeting with designers or their teams 10 times a day. And to do something like that in the middle of it is just like, oh my God, my soul can't take it.
You'd rather spend time having a good meal.
I mean, exactly. And that's exactly what we do. We have it all planned out. I want to go to Clown Bar and that's it.
Place, so
You're so nice to spend this time with me, and I enjoyed it so very much.
thank you so
Really.
much for having me.
Yeah, and I'm so excited about this project. I can't wait to hear more about it and see what it's going to be amazing, I know.
Thank you. Well, I hope so.
It is. I know it is. Everything you've created has been amazing. And it's not possible.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.